I'm Nick Powell, City Hall Bureau Chief with City and State. Joining me today on City and State TV is Eric Adams, Brooklyn Borough President. Thank you for joining us today, Eric.
No doubt. I always wondered how it is to be a bureau chief, man. That's like the, it's like the big time.
Yeah, it's an adjustment. It's nice being down in the, at City Hall, but it's definitely, you're flying by the seat of your pants a lot.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you can relate to.
Yeah, so true.
So your predecessor, Marty Markowitz, was a ubiquitous figure in the borough, popping up at everything from ribbon cuttings to middle school talent shows. So what do you plan on, sort of emulating that role as a booster for Brooklyn, or do you have, what is your kind of vision for the how you want to run this office?
Well, when you have 2.5 million people, there are not enough talent shows and ribbon cutting to impact their lives, and so I want to switch gears. As I spoke today with a group of clergy leaders, people talk about the Silk Road back in the Middle East, where there was a route that you can go for your goods and trade. I want to create an information road, a pathway of getting information to people in a very real way. So you may not see Eric Adams at your graduation ceremony, but your child graduated because Eric Adams touched your life to make sure he had a tutorer, to make sure he knew how to get to college, to make sure that you had food stamps if you were in an impoverished community and that child had a healthy meal. And so my goal is to cut the ribbons that have held people back from enjoying a quality life.
Interesting. Now, what are some of the immediate changes that you want to make as borough president? Whether it's the way you deliver services, or how do you envision?
One of the number one things that I want to do is I've learned from not only my years as a state senator, but also as a police officer, that we have two things that have kept us back. One is the people who are in need of services are not being connected to the people who deliver services. Many times people will come and sit down and speak with me and tell me a particular service they need without knowing that there's a service provider out there. And so I want to marry those two. I want to create a database of service providers, a database of those who are in need of service, and create a mapping system so we can find out what communities are in need of those services. Because although the borough has done well, and we have locations like Park Slope, Williamsburg, Greenpoint, Prospect Heights, Crown Heights, they're going to do fine. They're going to continue to evolve. You're going to have some issues around development, issues around, is there a pothole being repaired? It will take care of itself. And the beauty of that is that there are people who are there that know how to make sure government move. I need to now focus on those areas who were left behind, that many people have forgotten about, that don't have the capacity of infrastructure, where you don't have a person who is a deputy bureau chief that lives on your block that can navigate government. I have to make sure that they receive information. And so what I did here in this office, I shifted where my manpower is located. I took away the fancy titles and those who basically spent the bulk of their day inside an office space, and say, you know what, it's now time to be a borough hall without walls, without borders. We have to go into the street. We have to speak to people one-on-one. If that woman who's not receiving health care because she doesn't know how to navigate and fill out that form, we have to be there to make sure they know how to do that. We're leaving hundreds of millions of dollars on the table every day of free services on the federal, state, and city level because the people who are in need of those services don't know how to navigate government. Government is frightening and intimidating to the average person. It's nothing for you and I to walk into Borough Hall. It's nothing for you and I to sit down at City Hall. But the average New Yorker, particularly here in Brooklyn, where 47% of Brooklynites speaks a language other than English, or they're living at the poverty line or below the poverty line, walking into a governmental building, they say to themselves, I would rather do without the service than have to deal with the intimidation and the fear of dealing with government. I want to make government a user-friendly place where people can say, I can walk into Borough Hall and get the services I need.
And to that end, I understand your part of your vision is maybe repurposing some of the ComStat or using that as maybe a template for delivering these services. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I had a conversation with the mayor the other day when we were talking about the cleaning of the streets during the snowstorm. And I shared with him, I am amazed that New York is the inventor of probably one of the greatest use of technology in the history of governmental services, and that's with the New York City Police Department. Jack Maple and Commissioner Bill Bratton, Jack Maple is no longer with us, but Bill Bratton, they invented this thing called ComStat. And what it was a way to hold local precinct commanders responsible for the geographical areas that they were in charge of. And he would bring them in every week and talk about the conditions in their precincts. And using technology, you were able to map the city to see what crimes took place, were they going up. You didn't have to wait what it was historically. You would wait each month to find out if crime went up or down. He was mapping it daily. And they would have daily numbers, so you were able to identify a problem. We didn't take that system and move it into government. The DOE should have ComStat. The Department of Sanitation should have ComStat to look at streets being cleaned, how well we're doing, the length of snowfall. We should have ComStat and ACS. All of our agencies should have used that model. People came all over the globe to watch our model and duplicate it in their countries, yet right here it was not introduced or infused in how do we run government. So I want to look at that model and do my own brand of ComStat here. To map the borough, and if we have an area in Brooklyn where we have high unemployment, I want to map and see how many job placement agencies is in that area or service in that area. I want to see how many people are there that are receiving their GEDs. So if you map and do a visualization and you're able to overlay the map with information, you're able to deploy the resources to the places that they need to go. So it's an awesome task to try to accomplish. We met with NYU Poly, Pratt University, and we pitched the idea to them. They're excited about it. We have, the technology here. We are leading the city in new tech jobs. We want to get the tech industry involved so that we can show how we can use technology to improve the quality of life of everyday Brooklynites.
That's very interesting. And shifting gears a little bit, the mayor has put forth a plan, or he hasn't yet put forth a plan, but he's put forth the idea to create 200,000 units of affordable housing. Now, you have a role in land use issues as the borough president. Are there areas of the borough that you can see are ripe for develop or for that kind of development right now?
Yeah, I think that we are in the days of dreamers and visionaries. Visionaries, in my belief, they're not smarter than everyone. They just see things clearer. And I recalled when I started policing, I moved to Prospect Heights. And I purchased a co-op on that block. And my cops and colleagues, they thought I was out of my mind. They said, you make a decent salary. Why would you want to live in Prospect Heights? And I said, because I don't want to move into a community that's already built. I want to build a community. And I think that you get a better return on your dollar when you're willing to do that. And so then after that community started to thrive, I moved into Bedford-Stuyvesant and purchased a home there. And I heard the same things. It was as though I borrowed from, the time people were talking in my ear saying, why would you live there? They said, why would you live on that street? And now you look at the houses on that street, blocks away a house has been sold for over $1 million. In the Crown Heights area, a place just went for $1.8 million. These are numbers that are really unbelievable. No property in Brooklyn is a bad investment. Those days are gone. If Williamsburg is hip, then any place in Brooklyn could be hip. That's just the reality. And so what I am encouraging young families, go and start out the way early Americans did in the West, and they moved to areas and build their homes. Go to the Brownsvilles, go to the East New Yorks, go to those undesirable areas in groups and state that we're going to take these 4 or 5 block radius and we're going to get a basement bottom price for the real estate, but we're going to turn it around. We're going to invest in the schools to make the schools good. We're going to invest in the organizations and communities, and we're going to build communities. Those who are willing to do that, they're going to be the Ratners of yesteryears that were willing to go and invest in downtown Brooklyn. Dumbo wasn't always hip. You know, Greenpoint wasn't always hip. People had the desire to say, you know what, I'm going to turn this community around. And so I'm hoping that part of Bill de Blasio's plan and what I'm going to push for is to upzone areas in Brownsville and East New York and others along the transportation route to start with. The Livonia Avenues, upzone those areas. I think that we are now, Brooklyn should be considered the field of dreams. If we build it, they will come. People will come, they will raise families, jobs will come. You will see gymnasiums will start to open. You will see Starbucks starting to open on Livonia Avenue. You'll see nice restaurants open, and then they were fused with traditional restaurants. And so I think that the name of the game is to build. If we build, families will come. People want to be in Brooklyn. The opportunity is now.
Now, another interesting idea that you've put forth recently is you kind of want to reform the community boards a little bit. Can you give me some details on that plan?
I think that when you go to the average Brooklynite, if you were to leave this building and ask the average Brooklynite, who's your community board chair? How often do they meet? They wouldn't be able to answer that question, but what would frighten you even more, they would say to you, what's a community board? And so this powerful tool, this first entry into government and civic participation, too many people are not aware, and it impacts your life. It impacts if a recommendation will be presented, if you will have a particular center in your community, if a restaurant will be able to get liquor license or not, or an establishment. And so my goal is to have Brooklynites become more knowledgeable of the civic impact, and community board is the starting. I want to see a diverse group of people on the community board. I want to see business people. I want to see young people. I want to see some of the elders that have always been part of civic engagement. So I think it needs to be reflected of the diversity of the borough. And I don't see that often now when I attend the community board meetings. And I want those who participate in community board to also have a track record of volunteerism so they can understand the needs of the people in their community. And I think that that diversity will make a stronger and wiser community board. And then I want to do something else. There's a serious brain drain in many of our communities. And because of that brain drain, you don't have the infrastructure capacity building. You know, we don't have a problem of finding architects, engineers, grant writers in Park Slope. And oftentimes when a child grows up in Brownsville, attend NYU or Pratt University, as soon as he gets that degree, the next thing he wants is a lease in another area than Brownsville. So I'm saying you don't have to live in Brownsville if you want. If you feel as though you want to change your status and live in an environment, fine, but still invest in Brownsville. I want my CUNY and SUNY institutions to help me build infrastructure in those communities where a lot of people who are knowledgeable, who are doing well, are leaving. So you can leave physically, but emotionally and your educational skills should be assisting those community boards in that community build infrastructure so they can go after the pedestrian plaza, the bike lanes. They can lobby to get a city bike share in their community. They can lobby to make sure that their schools stay open at a later hour. So if we teach other communities how to build infrastructure, it will assist them to build their communities as well. I went to a dinner last night. I had a group that came to see me. They were concerned about a project that was being developed next door to them. They live in Cobble Hill and was made up of an architect, a doctor, an attorney, and a few other professionals. They came, they met with me, they did a brilliant presentation. They drafted a lawsuit. They're going to BSA present. It was just so well done. and they didn't need government. By the time they came to me, the project was done, you know. And what I asked of them, I said, I would love to come by and have dinner with you. And they had a dinner at their house with all of the people in the neighborhood. And we were able to talk. So what I asked of them is, can I now take you and become this team that I can go into another community that don't have the same professional makeup as you? And can you now use your experience to train them how to get services from government? And I want to build pockets of people like them. Groups of everyday New Yorkers that are just participating in improving the lives of their community, and let's go train other people. Let them see that, yes, not only can you fight City Hall and Borough Hall, but you can win in the process as they have won. And not only that, they are a better community because they accomplished that task.
I want to talk a little bit about public safety. You were in the past a very vocal critic of the previous police commissioner, Ray Kelly, particularly with regard to the stop and frisk policy. I'm curious if you've had, you talked about Commissioner Bratton. Have you had, some dialogue with the commissioner? And I'm curious also if your position now in a very public leadership role, if you feel like you have to be more measured in your criticism of fellow public officials such as Commissioner Bratton.
Right. Well, I think that it's great to have Commissioner Bratton back in the city. I think that he is probably one of the finest police administrators of the country has produced. His knowledge of bridging new ways of policing. Back when he stated that police can have an impact in crime, that wasn't heard of before. People believe that social conditions create crime. And he changed that paradigm. That was a paradigm shift that thousands of lives were saved because he knew it was possible. And so my role now as the borough president is to be an advocate for those who believe that any city and governmental agency is not providing the services that they're supposed to. And policing is one of the most important aspects of what is needed. Safety is the prerequisite for everything. Tied to prosperity is safety. And so I'm going to continue to be on the front line to talk about how do we ensure we have a safe environment. And a safe environment means that no innocent child should ever be approached by a person with a gun. And that person could be wearing blue jeans or blue suit or blue police uniform. Innocent children should not be approached by individuals with guns. It's unfortunate that the last 12 years we've turned that philosophy on its head, and we stated that the statement innocent and black child is an oxymoron, and anytime you see a child of color that you should be stopped and search him. That was a terrible period in American history, and we really don't fully understand the impact yet. But I think as time will come, we're going to understand that we traumatize innocent children. The bad guys, the bad young man, no matter what age he is, he believes being stopped by police is just the trade that comes with it. That's the downside of the trade. But an innocent child that aspires to be a cop, that looks for officer friendly, that is excited when the good guy wins. We demonized him and we stigmatized him, and in the process we traumatized him, and that's going to have an impact on how he feels about the authoritative figure that a police officer represents. And so I'm hoping that I can continue to add my voice to proper policing, but also I want to add my voice to, we have to rid our streets of guns. I passed a lot of legislation, introduced a lot of legislation around gun violence. I did a video on telling parents how to search their children's rooms to determine if there's any weapons or drugs that's in there. So with my criticism of law enforcement, unfair practices, I am extremely conservative when it comes down to people who commit predatory crimes should go to jail. You should not rape, rob, burglarize someone's home, commit homicides or manslaughters or kidnapping. Those 7 predatory crimes, major crimes, are indicators of how well we're doing as a society. We should use all the tools we have in our arsenal to stop those crimes. Stop and frisk is one of those tools. It's a great tool. I use it as a cop. I supervise my cops when they use it when I was a captain. It's a great tool, but it should be used along the constitutional parameters, and we didn't do that under the last 12 years in the previous administration.